Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Live from Miami in a bedroom in Surfside. Motzei Tainus. Motzei Tainus, Rabbi Isai. Many times during the year I say, Daf Yomi. Actually, today I made the argument to someone. Someone said, yeah, I have a chavrus every day. I said, and what about today? No. This is where we come in. This is where Daf Yomi comes in. The mile of Daf Yomi is every single day. I have to admit, I have to confess, right now, I would have liked to go to sleep, the MS. But you know what? So do you. And we're here in it together. We're doing the Daf 365 every single day. That's the beauty. Today's breakfast is sponsored by the Kamiansky family in memory of Rita Epstein, Reza Gittel Bas, Rib Zev, Yortzeit Chesov, and by Naftali Kraus, who was in the base measure the other day. The Nishmas Naftali, Ben Yeshua, Mordechai, Olav Shalom, and Rivka Bas Moshe Zalman, Oleh Shalom. MDY Bitzina at Gmail. Shalom Rebelli, I'm a regular Koil younger man. I used to watch Yeshir Bitzina until I came to Yeshir in Lutsk. And I'm just going to mute you, Mark. Reveal myself. And since then, people I meet are still coming over to me and telling me that they saw me at Bedashir. There may just be 400,000 people watching it Bitsina. Yes, there's a lot of people watching Bitsina. I wish the number was so large. So I made a new email address for all the Bitsina guys, and that is mdybitsina@gmail. Yishkoyach. Dear Rebelli Mazel Tov, I'm finishing Shas. I wanted to tell you in hopes of having the Chizuk continue. Thank you for continuing to make the learning fun and enjoyable. I'm so happy I finally got one person to commit to doing the daf, and he started in the middle of Avodah Zarah. He got one person. All he needs to do is get one more person. Zehu. That's all we're asking. 2 people. Each person bring 2 people. That'll add up to 400,000 people before you know it. Baruch Hashem, I plan to start a live feed here in Phoenix very soon. And he asked if I can come visit him in Phoenix. The discussions on that thing turning the bathroom reminded me of a story. My sister and brother-in-law were on vacation out of state for Shabbos. They were staying by a couple. Turned out the couple were Bali Tshuva. The husband was telling them that he started out by reading the Arts for Stone Chumash. Then he tells them, for a while I thought maybe I shouldn't be reading the Chumash in the bathroom. So, a shocker to us frum folks, but I thought about it and I was not sure if I would realize on my own that if I was starting from scratch, that it's not a good idea to read the Chumash in the bathroom. Eliezer Rosenthal. I have to get this out of the way. How do I do this? Oh, maybe like that. I love the story about the 4-minute mile, which reminded me of this incredible story and lesson. Rav Yosef Karo, the Kitzer, the famous Maisa, the Rav Yosef Karo spent the entire night struggling to understand difficult concepts in Torah. He refused to go to sleep until he figured it out. And then finally, after hours of hours, he got clarity. The next day, when he presented the question to the students, a young child immediately raised his hand and incredibly gave the correct answer. Without any work. Surprised and a little discouraged, Rabbi Zakar sought the guidance of the Arizal, who explained that it was only through Rabbi Karo's dedication and effort, the Mechaber. He dedicated effort and a piece of wisdom down to the world, making it sense. So once you bring it down to the world, then it becomes available. That's similar. That's in a ruchnistic level. You bring it down to the world. I'm saying even in the Gashmias level, once you let people know that's possible, then it happens. You make it succeed and then get others to succeed. You're making something that once felt impossible possible for yourself and for people that might not even know. He's talking about the daf. The shir started with a handful of people. It grew to 40,000. Mr. Shem will soon grow to 400. Once seemed impossible has already become possible. And with Hashem's help, your continued effort is just the beginning. Thank you so much for everything. Jeremy Shiowitz from Woodmere. P.S. No need to do it again, but thank you so much for the shout out a month ago for emunadaily.com. It brought in many new followers. Tiskula mitzvahs. emunadaily.com. Gewaldig. After a fast, sometimes the head doesn't work. Sometimes it hurts even. But who cares? We got to do the daf. Alex Gilden says, I love you for mentioning the issue with tefillin shel roish. I've seen over and over people have it two-way forward past their hairline roots or very much off to one side and drives me crazy. I've often gone over to the same people to give gentle reminders with a smile and nod, but to no avail when I see that they've just gotten used to the bad habit and repeat the same mistake day in and day out. That's the union of habit, for bad and for good. Please keep the reminders coming from time to time. So much appreciated. Also, so much gratitude to your mysterious nefesh preparing and giving two shirim while traveling. I continue to get chizuk that if you can find a way to give shir, I can find a way to listen. I like that. If I can find a way to give shir, you'll find a way to listen. Givaldik tiskin limits. May we all be zayich to mourn properly, so we can be zayich to the nechama and rebuilding the bayis shlishi b'mher v'ameinu amein. Alex Gilden, shkoyach. The Masechta is sponsored by David Salomon, dedicated in memory of Imoiri Reb Shmuel Baruch ben Reb Chaim Tzvi Doiv Zichron Levracha. The Masechta is sponsored by Anonymous. Hatzlacha Baruch Nisi Begash U'Zchus Achenu B'nei Yisrael. Anonymous, may our learning be a shield of protection, a source of unity and blessing for Am Yisrael. Joel Gedalius, Leonish, my father Jack Gedalius. Coil sponsors for the day: Saul Stepner. In memory of my mother on the yard side, Sarah Elko Bas Reb Shol Zelig. Also Mazel Tov to my son Jack Stepner, MDY Talmud, from Herzliya on his engagement to Kinneret Leben. Mazel Tov. Wow. Gewaldik. An MDY Talmud. Anonymous. In memory of Leah Lulu Bat Jamila. Aleh Shalom. Yosef Ezra. In honor of my father, Rabbi Yosef Ezra. May he continue to grow in Torah. See email, the kosher grasshopper. That one. Okay. Got it. Monthly sponsors, TCS Israel, powered by Talking Save Anonymous, Refuah Shnei Chulda Bas Chuldalea Bas Bracha. Binyamin Zichraman, Refuah Shnei Avram Ben Elisheva Penina, Coffee, Anonymous, in memory of Leah Bat Jamila. Or Yamila. Daily sponsors, I believe we have 9 daily sponsors. King Yirbu, Ari Mack, Lili Nishmat Dvorah Chana Bat Kela V'Yakov, Anonymous, for the safe return of all the hostages and Refuah Shnei L'chol Chayli Am Yisrael. Shlomo Sacho, Hakar Satoiv to Reb Eli, Yishar Koyach, thank you. Justin D. Shapiro, Lili Nishmat Pesach Baruch Ben Moshe Cheskel, Zev Wasserman, in memory of my friends Yartzeit Yosef Yitzchok Ben Ruvain. Anonymous, the Schus Refuah Shnei Brandel Bas Friday Reitze. By Yecheskel Isengard, B'rocha v'hatzlacha to everybody learning Daf Yomi, Amen, Daniel Benedict, in honor, my good friend, Daniel Benedict, the one who's very similar to me. Flies a plane, does real estate, learned in Panovich, shaves, in honor of her grandchildren, Ariel and Ezra Gans. The Gans is from Florida, on their 3rd Masechta. Anonymous Kravitz, in honor of Hilkam Yansky and Shlomi Klein. MDY Art, monthly, Refuah Shlema, for Yonatan Eitan, Ben Bas Sheva Bracha, Refuah Shlema, Mordechai Ben Esther, Refuah Hayeled, Daniel Zev Ben Ayeled Esther. Rabbi Isai, here we go. We're holding Daf Memvav Amud Beis towards the bottom, 7 lines from the bottom. Boi Romi Barchava. Hamishtachave lekomas chitim mahu lemenachos. If a person bows, does Avodah Zarah to wheat that's attached to the ground, we know that something that's attached to the ground does not become Avodah Zarah. The question is, can we prepare a carbon mincha with the wheat? As we're going to see, since at the end of the day something disgusting happened to this wheat, perhaps you shouldn't be doing a carbon with it. Yesh shinui b'nevad or ein shinui b'nevad. Nevad is something that was worshipped. Can you take the wheat and grind it down and make it flour? Does the change in the, not structure, but in the composition of the wheat, does that create something new? And does that allow us to use the wheat, the new formed flour that came out of the wheat through a process of grinding it? Is that okay? Let me prove it to you. Anything that's also, for instance, Avodah Zarah or nirba, you have an animal that something also was done to it. So, if they give birth, their offspring is mutter. Why? Because giving birth is a shinui. Giving birth is a change. Before you had a baby inside, now it came out to the world, it's alive and well. There's a change here. Similar to wheat being ground down and made into flour. Allah, and we learned over there, so okay, we have a machlokes here. If such a change that occurs by a offspring of an animal, maybe perhaps it's the same halacha by wheat. Says the Gemara, "V'lavitmar Allah, Omer Rav Nachman, Omer Rabbi Baravu, machlokes kishenirbu v'lebesoif ibru." The whole machlokes is as if the isser happened before the animal became pregnant. Daf Yomi Amud Aleph. Avol ibru v'lebesoif nirbu. But if first the animal became pregnant and then it became nirba, there was bestiality done to it, and memela became asur, divrei hakol asurin. Everybody agrees that it's asur. V'haninami, now this wheat, ki ibru v'lebesoif nirbu dami. So since this wheat was in the world, and excuse me, and a change occurred to the wheat that was in this world, everybody's going to admit that it remains asur. I got to tell you this very interesting thing. I went to daven most of the tefillah, not most, the larger ones, the morning, the Shabbos morning, today in the morning, last night, I was in the Young Israel of Surfside, which is a 20-minute walk approximately from my son's house. Very, very hot. And it's difficult to walk, but we did it. Friday night, we went to the local Chabad. And so the guy gets up there and he's davening, and he has a very nice voice. And I was sitting right next to him, to the chazan. And I look, and it looked like the cufflinks are kind of familiar. I was like, I said, maybe I didn't see it well enough. And after davening, he comes over to me and says, "You're not going to believe this. Just the Shabbos, I'm wearing MDY cufflinks. I had no idea that you're coming." He says, "Mamish, I wore MDY cufflinks. Takapella." So I saw a guy wearing MDY cufflinks before I saw a guy learning MDY. Everybody sees people learning MDY on the plane. I've never seen it. But I've seen a guy wearing cufflinks. Amazing. Yeah. And to point out again, if you didn't see the whole email spiel, you went straight to the learning. Today is the day that Daf Yomi shines. And that is, it's super difficult to prepare a shir on Tisha B'Av. In other words, a Matzah Tisha B'Av, where didn't have much time after Tisha B'Av because it gave the four shiurim, right? So there's not enough time to prepare Daf Mem Zayin. And to give a shir Matzah Tisha B'Av when your head is hurting and you just want to go to sleep and that whole thing. But this is the beauty of Daf Yomi. I'm actually happy now. I'm excited that I'm sitting and learning, and that had I done another program, had I been in another, whatever the programs are, there are a lot of different programs, I most likely would have not been doing Daf right now. Most likely I wouldn't have been learning. Most likely I would have been shlufen. So this is where these kind of days, this is a lot of great programs, and they're all beautiful, be'emes. They're all great, and whoever does them, it's unbelievable. I'm not taking away from the programs, but the area that Daf Yomi shines is the consistency of the daily. And this is daily, literally, 365. Matzah Yom Kippur we learn, Matzah Tisha B'Av, and I mention it all the time. This is the day, here, mamish now. And it's tough, and it's difficult, but that's what makes it beautiful. Iked some say there was Mar Zutra himself. Who was it? Boy Bar Chama. So it's he himself, Rami Bar Chama, saying Machloikes. He says it himself. It's word for word, but it's he himself saying it. Machloikes b'kishenirvu Seif Hebrew. The whole Machloikes is when this was done, and then the animal became pregnant. Aval Ibru. If the animal was pregnant and the Isser happened to the pregnant animal, so the Isser happened to the baby himself. Divrei HaKol Asur, everybody's going to say it's Asur, even though there was some sort of a change, the birth was a change. So to this wheat that was in the ground, and an Avera happened to the wheat, because somebody did Avodah Zarah to the wheat, you can no longer use it for a carbon. This wheat is similar to a pregnant animal. Says Gemara, why? What's the connection? Hasam mi kar behema v'ashta behema. When an animal is pregnant with another animal, the offspring was in this world. Just what? The way we could view it in Lumdus, we could view it as there's a baby. It's just in a closed, locked room, but it's there. Nothing changed. What changed from the time that it was born and 5 minutes before it was born? The only thing that changed is that it came out the door into this world. That's what the Gemara says. That's the lashon of the Gemara. There's only a door that prevented it from coming out, but it's the same animal. There was no change in the composition of the animal. It had 4 legs, a tail, a head, 2 eyes, a nose, the whole thing. It was just in its mother's stomach and now it came out. A minute ago, it was a piece of wheat. Now it's ground flour, so it's a completely different composition, completely different bria. Boy, Rish Lakish. Amazing sugis, gewaltige stuff. As Rish Lakish, if a person bows to a palm tree and creates Avodah Zarah, he's doing Avodah Zarah to the palm tree, can I use the lulav for the mitzvah of lulav? If the tree was planted for Avodah Zarah purposes, certainly this tree, everything, forget the mitzvah, forget Hashem. For you yourself, you would not be allowed to use the dates on the tree. You wouldn't be allowed to use the lulav. So what's the question? When this tree was planted for regular purposes, and then somebody came along and worshipped it, can I use the lulav for the mitzvah? So you probably recall this from yesterday, from the day before. Here, take a look. You have this case of a tree that was planted, and look at the guy, he does a little bowing. So now, what happened? He had a hat on, and now he took his hat off. Now he's a guy. He's a guy gomer. So he bowed to the tree, and after the tree was planted for regular purposes. So the Gemara says, according to this Rabbi Yehuda, also this Rabbi Yehuda says, we have in Fursha Pasuk that it becomes Asur. So what is the Shaila here? So the Shaila would be according to Rabbanon. What's the status of this lulav for doing a mitzvah with it? Is it disgusting Takash Baruch Hu or not? So that's the Shaila. Let me just see if I have my marker here. Oh, here it is. Givaldik. I just made this weaker somehow. Oh, much better. Zog the Gemara. Kyoser Avdimi Omar. So, not so much according to Rashi, but others explain that we're talking about an Avodah Zarah tree that was owned by a guy, and the guy decided to cancel it, to be mevatel it. Beautiful question. Yesh dichui etzel mitzvahs, ein dichui etzel mitzvahs. It's a concept in Shas called dichui b'mitzvahs. Oh, I forgot to say pshat on the bottom of Memvov Amud Beis. When the Gemara says, Machloikis kishenirbu b'lebesoyif ibru, so Rashi says that we're talking about a question of zev goyim. You have the mother who's a usher and the father who's not. Do the two of them together is do we say that it's usher or not? Okay, next year. Actually, I have to give another shir in Hebrew right after this one, so I'll just say it then. I should make a note of it. Hold on. Where's my pen? Here we go. Okay. Sorry. Here's the shiloh. If a person were to bring a carbon, brings the carbon, and he cannot bring the carbon because, let's say, the mizbeach is on a break. A piece of brick broke off, and you cannot bring a carbon now. So even if they fix the mizbeach, you can't bring the carbon, if I remember correctly. There's something called dichui. Once it's pushed off forever. So even if the reason was pushed off goes away, you make a fix, no, you cannot use this thing. So here's the shiloh. Do we say the same thing by a mitzvah? So let's say you have a lulav that was usher to use. Why? Because it's Avodah Zarah. The guy goes along and he does a bittul to the Avodah Zarah. Can you use the lulav now? Or perhaps no. Since it was pushed off for a mitzvah, you couldn't use this lulav at a certain point. On Sunday, you couldn't use it. So just because on Monday, the guy went ahead and made a bittul, that doesn't make it a mutter to use that lulav on Sukkot. They say there's a bacher who was learning yeshiva, but he wasn't learning. He literally wasn't learning. And the army came and they took him. They wanted to recruit him to the army. So he was begging and pleading. He said, "No, but I put on tefillin and I daven and I this and that." So they brought him to the head rabbi of the army, and the rabbi told him, "Ein dichui etzel mitzvahs. Just because you do some mitzvahs, you don't get a dichui from the army." So says the Gemara, Tifshet lei midasnan. Perhaps so. What's interesting about today's sugyas is that we're going through a lot of different halachas, as usual, but maybe this is a little bit more than usual. Another halacha. We know that if a person shechs a bird or a chaya, like a deer, you have to cover the blood. You don't have to cover the blood of a cow, of a goat, of a sheep, but of a deer, of a chaya, and a bird, you have to cover the blood. I don't know. You know what? If you're a little queasy, do not look at this. I'm warning you now. Do not look. This is a little bit of a shechita here. I really wanted to take it out. Okay. Not so geschmack. Okay. From now you can watch. So you have a chicken in a box. And now, we probably should take that part out, but I didn't have time. Okay. So that's kisu hadam. So, says the Gemara like this. When it comes to kisu adam, kiso v'nizgalo, if you covered the blood and then it became uncovered, patam al-chasas, you don't have to cover it for a second time. Kiso hu aruach, but if you didn't cover it yourself, the wind came and covered it. By the way, where can you do kisu adam? Let's say you never did the mitzvah of kisu adam. I think I did it once in my life. So you could find where they do kaparas coming up now in Yom Kippur. So a lot of places in Eretz Yisrael, they'll allow you to do the mitzvah. You say, Baruch mitzvah kisi adam, and they give you some dirt, and you sprinkle and you kaim the mitzvah. It's kedai to do it once in a lifetime. If the wind came and covered it, you have to cover it. But wait a minute. What does it mean you have to cover it? That if the wind came and covered it, then the wind came and uncovered it, then you have to go and cover it. But if the wind did not come. In other words, if it was just covered once by the wind, you don't have to cover it. Here, let me just show you what it looks like real quickly. So here you have a chicken in a cone. This is what they have in the Schlachtheiser. That would be a kisel dam. Okay. Whoa. The blood, it got uncovered. Now check this out. Here's the wind covering it. And then the wind uncovers it. So in that Rabbi Yochanan says, you're mechuyev to cover it. Very good. But if the wind covered it and did not uncover it, you don't have to cover it again. Ask the Gemara a bomb question. The wind comes and covers it. So at that point, you're not mechuyev to cover it. The wind comes and uncovers it, you have to cover it. The question is why? The moment the wind covers it, and you don't have to cover it anymore, so then the mitzvah goes away. The blood has no chiyuv to be covered. So just because the wind comes a minute later and uncovers it, why should you be chayiv? That's called dichui. It was pushed off. The mitzvah of covering the blood was pushed off because for a moment I told you that you don't have to cover the blood. So that means the mitzvah was pushed off. Morning, Rabbi Isai. Tomorrow, this is not going to exist anymore. You're going to see a Magachir 10 years younger than now. So you see from his says Rav Papa that you can't push off a mitzvah. The chiyuv always remains. So just because it was covered, it doesn't mean the chiyuv is gone. The chiyuv is still there. The wind comes and uncovers it. Now the chiyuv is still there, so you have to cover it. Says the Gemara, the Rav Papa Gufa Yiboyle. Well, perhaps the Gemara is answering that maybe Rav Papa himself, we weren't sure what's going on. Mifshap Shitalei, the Ein Dichot Mitzvah, take out the word Rav Papa. The Ein Dichot Mitzvah. Perhaps Rav Papa said there's no dichoi when it comes to mitzvahs. Lo yishna lekula v'lo yishna lechumra. Here, let me just show you kula and chumra. Oh, so it's in the wrong way. We're talking about ein dichoi b'mitzvahs. So there's lechumra and lekula. Lekula here, if we stop right over there, good. Lekula means that there's no dichoi. So if I have a tree that was once upon a time an Asherah tree, and that had a lulav on it, so once upon a time my lulav was an Asherah, was Avodah Zarah, then the guy goes in his mevatel, so there's no dichuy. It was never pushed off. There's no pushing off by mitzvahs. Therefore, I could use this lulav. So that's why it says over here, lulav mutter. But if you say l'chumra, l'chumra means since there's no dichuy, then I have to cover up the blood for a second time. So that becomes a chumrah. So it goes both ways, l'kula and l'chumrah. So the Gemara says, did Rav Papa say that ein dichoy both, that I could use the lulav, and also that I must cover the blood again for the second time? That's l'chumrah. And perhaps it's just a suffix. And l'chumrah I do say, what does it mean? So if we look at the chart, l'chumrah means I would have to cover the blood a second time, but I cannot use the lulav since once upon a time it was Avodah Zarah. Teiku. We have to wait until Mashiach comes to answer the question. Wow, it's 11:30, and we have over 60 people watching live. It's beautiful. Kol kavod lechem. Heads are hurting. The whole thing. Ate too much when you broke your fast, the ganze Zach, but you're here learning Torah. Boy, Rav Papa. I'm serious. How many people in Klal Yisrael are learning right now? Right now. You know, the world stands when people learn Torah. When nobody's learning Torah, then the world could be charav, chas v'shal. I'm asking you a question. How many people are learning Torah right now in Klal Yisrael? Right now. At 11:30 at night in America. In Eretz Yisrael, it's going to be 7 o'clock. It's like 6:30 in the morning right now, right? That's something else. Okay, so they got a whole night's sleep, this, that, fine. I'm talking about in America right now, 11:30 p.m., Motzei Tisha B'Av. How many people are learning in Beis Medrash right now? Boy Rav Papa Mishtachav lebehemo samra ma'ul tchelas. As Rav Papa, similar question. So if I bow to the animal, can I use the wool for tzitzis for tchelas? You see some blue in there. Says Gemara tchelas demai. What kind of tchelas are you talking about? Eat tchelas the kehanim. You're talking about the begodim big day kahuna for the kohen hainu by the rami bar chama. So that was the question that he asked before. If you take a wheat and can you make it a mincha? So you take this wool, can you make it into a beged for the avodah for the kohen? Or can I take another question we had? Can you take a mountain that was worshipped? Can I take a stone out of it and make a mizbeach? So that's the same question. What's the difference? Are you talking about a different item? It's the same idea. V'tcheles the tzitzis, and if you're asking me tcheles for tzitzis, whether or not it's disgusting to perform a mitzvah with it, how to buy the Rish Lakish? That was the question that Rish Lakish asked about a lulav. Can I use a lulav that was worshipped beforehand for Avodah Zarah? Says you're right. We didn't have to ask a question about tcheles. But the reason why he did ask the question about tcheles is there's another there are a few more items in the list that have a different question. It's not the same idea behind the question. And therefore we stuck this in also. So we stuck in Samru Ma'ul Tcheles. How about the wool for Tcheles? But really what we want to get to is Karneo Malach Hatzaitzris. Can I use the horn for the trumpet? So Taisa says that the trumpet from Moshe Rabbeinu was silver. So it's a little problematic that if Moshe Rabbeinu is using silver, shouldn't we have to use this for all generations for silver? So he says no, it's only the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Bali Musar want to say from here that what's the difference? Why is it that, let's say the menorah was made out of gold, so in the future generation, when Mashiach comes, it has to be made out of gold. Whatever was made back then, why is it when it comes to the trumpets, it's different? So what's the point of the trumpet? Let's say the Bali Musar. The point of the trumpet is to call Klal Yisrael. So you say, you know what? The calling in every generation is a different calling. Some generations, they had to tell the people, oh, you're going to get a lot of Gehenim, it's going to be 7,000 degrees, and they're going to flip you, and this and that. Some generations, you have to do a niggin with the simcha. Some generations with the animation, whatever the generation is. So that's the side. Sometimes it's gold, silver. Sometimes it's a bone. Sometimes it's a horn. The calling of Klal Yisrael in every generation is going to be a different way and a different material. Shekel ma'ul chalilan. Check this out. They actually have this flute made from femur. It's called the Kengling. How come I went away? Kengling flute. It's a human femur. You see that? So anyway, the question is, can you make a flute out of the femur of an animal that was Avodah Zarah? Can I use the intestines to make the strings for the instruments? Says according to Mando Amar that says that the main part of the singing, here we have a beautiful picture that Yoshi made, I guess Matzi Yantif, Matzi Teshuvah. It's all original stuff. So you have here the Levium singing there. So what's the main thing? If you notice, the top part is a choir. The bottom part, they have instruments. So the Shaila is, yeah, these guys are choir guys. These guys are the flute. So he says, what's the main part? Is the main part the singing, or the main part are the instruments? Shmaka Shaila. So certainly it's also because you're trying to make parts for the kli. According to Manama, it says the main thing of the song was with their mouth. The instruments are just helping out the voice, but you could have a nice, what do they call it today? What is just voice? Okay, acoustic, whatever it's called. That's not what I'm looking for, but you know what I mean. He's gonna tell me in a second. Or perhaps a cappella, right? Shkoyach Mark, a cappella. So maybe a cappella is the main thing, and the instruments are just to make it a little nicer, or maybe no. The whole people don't like a cappella so much. They want the main thing. They want this, the instruments. By the way, there's a guy that called up a father of a girl and he said, "Listen, I have a great guy for you, great shidduch. The only problem is he can't sing. He can't sing to save his life." So the father says, "No, so, no, okay." So I've heard of bigger chesroinus than that. That's his only chesar. He says, "No. You don't understand." But he doesn't know that he doesn't know how to sing. That's the problem. You know these guys that they think they have good voices and they have the worst voices and they always want to be the chazan? That's the guy. Yeah. Boy, who's this here? Boy Rabba. Hamashtach v'lemayon. A person worships some sort of water source. Can I use the water on the Beis Hamikdash, on the Mizbeach, on Sukkos? Here, you see this picture? They used to pour the water, the Nesachim, on Sukkos. What's that halacha? What's the question? If he was worshipping his own reflection, kosagid, or perhaps he was worshipping the water. But if that's the case, if you think that he's worshipping the water, so why don't you ask the same question about somebody who's worshipped a cup full of water that's detached? Why do you have to talk about a whole water source? Says, no, the truth is he's worshiping the water. This is the question. Was he worshiping the water right in front of him? And the water in front of him moved. He said he's worshiping the entire current. So it doesn't matter if it's in front of him or all the way upstream. He worshipped it all. True story they say about, I looked up the name. It's an Egyptian king called Fuad, I think, Fawad, something like that, that he told his wife, the queen, that she should not bathe or put her feet into the water right in the yard of the palace. There's too many people and it's not appropriate. She didn't listen. And his servants wanted the king to kill her because she disobeyed the king. But he didn't want to kill her. He liked her. He didn't know what to do. So there was a Jewish guy there who said he's going to ask one of the rabbis, great rabbis, and he's going to come up with something. So they went to ask the Ariel Diskin. Ariel Diskin said, based on this Gemara, the king said, don't bathe in this water. But the water moves. And the water she bathed in was a different water completely. And Mamela, he said that she is potter from Misa, and the king liked it a lot. So the Gemara, could you answer all this water that the entire current? You can't answer. One person can't say the entire river is also. Says Gemara, the source, where does the water come from? From his property. It starts from his property, so therefore he does have the right to answer it. Says the Mishnah, a person's house is adjacent to the Avodah Zarah house, and the common wall fell down. Also, you're not allowed to build it because if you build it, you're helping the Avodah Zarah. So what should he do? He needs a house. He needs a wall to his house. You have a little bit of a picture. The common wall between his house, which is on the right, and the base of Avodah Zarah on the left, fell down. Whew. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah. So he brings it all into his own property for Amos, and then he could build a wall. What if it's both of theirs? The entire wall, half is Avodah Zarah, half is his. Nidoi mechza mechza. So Rashi says, for instance, let's say the wall is 2 amas thick, and he has his part of the wall is 1 amma. His 1 amma, Avodah Zarah is 1 amma. Together is 2 amma. So now he only has to distance his wall 3 amas from the wall of the Avodah Zarah, because one of the amas is his. Says the Mishnah, we know that we saw this chart just a little bit ago. So a sheretz, as you see, has the ability. It's under the line avatuma, second line from the top. It's the dead. This guy. Let's see if I can zoom in on him. Here we go. This guy, sheretz, has the ability to be metama adam v'kelim. He's metama, a person and a vessel. Okay, great. So says the Mishnah Gevaldik. Avodah Zarah has tumah to it, like we learned earlier. To what degree? To what level? Like a sheretz. It makes something tummy for one night till the night. Avodah Zarah, the stones, the wood, bafore, and the dirt, mitamim kesheretz has the ability to be mitamim like a sheretz. Shinemar shakis tishakseno. It's like a sheketz, like a sheretz. Rebbe Akiva Omer, it's worse. Kenida has tumas nida. Shinemar tizrim kimoy dova tzei toimer loy. Stay away from it, from the Avodah Zarah, like you'd stay away from the nida. Manida mitama b'maso. So this is really slightly different than masa, but it's the same idea. Here you see if a nida zavas or zav sit on a mattress, so the tumah goes all the way down. But the same thing is if you carry a nida, so the tumah goes all the way up. Okay, Avodah Zarah, just carrying the Avodah Zarah makes you tummy. Says Gemara, what did the Mishnah say? That if the common wall between Avodah Zarah and your house fell down, what do? You back up 4 amas and then you build a wall. As the Gemara, now the Avodah Zarah is going to gain 4 amas. Givaldik, we have a great picture. You moved your house 4 amas away from the Avodah Zarah house, even though you shared a common wall. Now you're going to put a toilet there. As the Gemara, you need to take care of business in private. You can't just have the people from the Avodah Zarah house look at you from their window. Says the Gemara, I just thought when I heard this idea of tznius, the world has gone mad. I remember seeing this, and this is years ago. I don't know if it even exists anymore. I figured I'll show it to you. Why not? In a public street, they put a public bathroom that has a 2-way mirror. Here you can see the guy inside on the right. He's looking out, so he could see what's going on, but they supposedly can't really see inside. And this is how a person is supposed to do his tzrachim. In the middle of a Rosh Hashanah. Sugar. But anyway, that's their way of doing things. We have Hilchas Tznius. I forgot who it was. I think it was Napoleon said that he checked out all religions. And he was really impressed with Judaism because you didn't have halachas of how to do things in the Beis HaKisei. There's a lot of different halachas that we have. Hilchas Beis HaKisei. Check it out in Shulchan Aruch. What hand to use, this, that, all the tznius. You have how to uncover yourself to be tzanua. And here, for instance, David Leiba Sakisa de Laila. Yeah, don't worry about tznius. It was for the night. Nobody could see anything at night. Even if they look out the window, they won't see you at night. Says Gemara, but that doesn't work. Who's a person who keeps tznius? A person who uses the same place that he uses during the day, he uses at night. But we said we established it means the way he relieves himself. In other words, let's say there's certain halacha that you shouldn't expose more than a certain amount, a tefach from the front, 2 tefach, different halachas of how much you could expose. You sit down, then you take off your clothing. Different halachas. That's what. In that regard, at night, use the same type of halachas. The 1 tefach, 2 tefachim, sitting down, that sort of thing. So it doesn't make a difference if it's dark or light. You should use tznius. But nevertheless, a person should use tznius. Says Gemara, okay, going back to this diagram, this toilet, this bathroom, he didn't do it for adults. He did it for small children who don't have tznius anyway. Inami, the godelei bizni v'higni. So, two pshatim here. We'll go with the pshat that he put up a thin fence on the other side of the bathroom so that the people from the Avodah Zarah on the left cannot look in because there's a thin, let's call it a curtain. Nowadays it would be a curtain. He put up a curtain so they can't look in. Great. Now we have two similar mishnayos regarding the three types of houses of Avodah Zarah and the three types of stones. Very, very similar halachas. Shloisha batimim, there's three houses of Avodah Zarah. A house that every stone was built from, which reminds me, the famous Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon says that if a person, we were talking about, who was it? I don't remember already the name, it was Chanina, something like that, with a ches, I think. I don't remember. But anyways, you all know who I'm talking about. He would plant, Mark, you could probably chat GPT it. He would plant the seeds, and then he would make from the things, he would make traps, and then he would, from the seeds he'd make strings, the traps, then he would catch a deer, and then he would check the deer, and from the hide, he would write all the svarim and he'd give it out to the children. Says the Vilna Gaon that if a person would build a shul, that every stone was made l'shem shemayim and all the tools were made by Jews, l'shem kavana, would be a shul that would never be destroyed. And this lahavdil aleph, billion havdalas is the exact reverse. That if you build a place of Avodah Zarah with intent of Avodah Zarah, hareza asur, it is also bahana this place. That's the worst of the worst. Now, what if you have a house, sida v'kaidoi l'Avodah Zarah, v'chidesh? He renovated an old house, existing house. So he put up some lime on the wall. He put a new drywall on the wall. Let's call it, and it's for Avodah Zarah. So what you do is noitel b'shechidesh. As long as you remove that layer of drywall, that layer of lime off the wall, then you can use the house. He put the Avodah Zarah into the house, and then he removed it. It's motor. Omer Rav. Says Rav, pay attention to this word. A person doesn't say he built the house for Avodah Zarah. He bowed down to the house. He worshipped the house. That makes it also, says Rav. If you have stones that were not attached to the ground, but later on you attach those stones to the ground, we don't consider it like the ground itself, which cannot become asur. We consider it like it's detached, and detached becomes asur. Okay. So it says the Gemara, oops. Okay, so that'sAmishtachava. The question is, Rabbi Chanina. Oh, Rabbi Chanina Parpa. Yeah, that's my thought. Something with Ches. Great, Rabbi Chanina. Givaldik. Thank you, Mark. But we said in our Mishnah that you have to build the house in order for it to be awesome, not just worship it. Says the Gemara, if you build it, you don't have to worship it. Just build it with the intent to worship. But if you worship it, so in other words, if we look at the list, we have four things: building a house for Avodah Zarah, and also worshipping the house for Avodah Zarah. Then we have Sayid Beis, that you added lime or drywall, and then you have Hichnas Avodah Zarah. As the Gemara, so look at the list. We have four, not three. Why does the Mishnah say three? So the Gemara, now we go like this. You see, 1 and 2 are the same because 1 and 2 have the property that what? That if you mevatel it, then it's okay. Well, I shouldn't say that. Right. So Rashi says very good. Rashi says that and that's throughout the whole sugya. If a guy owns this, then a guy can be mevatel. But if a Jew owns it, then there's no bittul forever. Next Mishnah, same halachas. Shalosh avarim. There's three types of stones. Even shechatzava mitchila lebimus. If you, how do you say chatzava? That's the word I'm looking for. Quarried it. There's a better word where you cut it out of the mountain. So when you think to yourself that you're cutting it out of the mountain for the stage, that on top of that's going to be the base that you're going to put the Avodah Zarah on. Harei Asura, the whole stone, the whole base is Asur. Why? Because that's how you worship the Avodah Zarah. You worship the Avodah Zarah with the base, and you worship the base as well. See the v'chayda l'shem Avodah Zarah. Let's say you put another layer of whatever it is on the stone. No, the same like we had by a house. Just scrape off that layer, and the stone becomes mutter. If you put Avodah Zarah on top of the stone, v'silka, and then you took it away, harei mutter. It's just like we had by a house. If you put Avodah Zarah into the house, you take it away, it's mutter. Beguf shel would mean that you word I'm looking for. You chiseled out the stone. And then you filled in the chisel with this material. That's what it means by Sida V'Kida. As the Gemara, V'ha Dumi the Baisnan, U'Baislan V'Gufei U'Mitzer. But when it comes to a house, we said that you don't have to chisel into a house. You just put a layer on top of the house and it becomes awesome. So the Gemara says, no, a house you did chisel. Baisnami Ika Beini Urve. Between the bricks, what we put, the mortar between the bricks. So you have that little gap, and that's the gap he filled in with the material. So it is chiseled. Says Gemara says, Miloy Askinu the Shia V'Hada Shaya. Maybe it was already filled. Who said that you filled it up? Maybe it was completely. Oh, I didn't do the turning of the daf. Correct. I got to do that now. So let's just finish this line. Where does it say that there's a gap? Maybe it's completely flat. So we're talking about bittul. V'afagav the siya the kia begufa shel even. Even though he etched it out, he chiseled out the stone and he put in a material in there. But since he removed it, it's okay. Let me just, here, but it's the middle of a thought, so I have to finish it. The Ma'od the same Akivin Shasiya Vikia Beguvish 11, because I would have thought that since he chiseled it, then it's like a stone that was quarried, cut out of the mountain specifically for Avodah Zarah purposes. It's so deep. And it should be completely asur kamashmalon, that if you remove the material, then it becomes mutter. I'm going to just say the turning of the daf, and then I'm going to say have a wonderful day. Turning of the daf, Adar Global MDY is enjoying the benefit of Meisters of Adar's MDY clients. Anonymous, L'zech Nishmas, Yachad Gilo Bas Itamar Ephraim, Cham Yitzchok Ben Shmuel Avigdor. Anonymous, this is Chus, for Hatzloch and Ruchnis and Gashmias. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day. You should see Mashiach b'mehero.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.